You ready? Yeah. Okay. Hey there everybody, Tyler Richardson, live in McKinney, Texas. This is one of my beautiful 4 kids, Willow Richardson, and she's the reason that I am wanting to share this video with y'all today. We actually have 4 kids. Our oldest son is Aiden, and he's 9 years old. We have Cooper, who is 7 years old, Willow, who is 4 years old, and then Libby, who is 3 years old. And the reason that I wanted to share this, I was actually asked to write a blog post, but I'm just way more comfortable just talking instead of writing. And I wanted to share why this little girl is where she is, and the path that it was for me to bring her home, and saying yes to not only adoption, but adopting somebody with Down syndrome. So I started out, and I'll be honest, I was extremely fearful. I was afraid of what it looked like. I wanted to control a lot of the situation. And I'm sure that a lot of the dads and husbands out there have experienced this. Heck, you might be going through it right now, to where God has put it on your wife's heart. Yep, God has put it on your wife's heart that, you know, adoption is for y'all's family, and you might not be there. And that's where I was. I was scared. I was fearful. And in complete transparency, there was a few times I thought my wife had just completely lost her mind. But God showed me in a big way that the calling that was put on her heart was of Him, and that this little girl right here was meant to be in our family forever. Some of the events that really that just shaped and shaped my mind, shaped my heart, and really God broke me into being where He needed me to be to see His plan. I think back to one day I was at a car wash, and Brooke and I had been talking about adoption. We had been talking about Down syndrome, and one of our friends was actually going through an adoption. Had already brought their daughter home from China, and I just said, you know what, I'd love to just sit down with him. I'd love to sit down with Andrew and talk to him about it. Well, at that time, Andrew and I weren't real close friends. We were buddies, but we just, you know, weren't sitting down and talking on a one-on-one level. So I'm sitting at a car wash, and here walks in Andrew Scholl. And I just felt the nudge, and I said, hey bro, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about your journey and how you felt and what it was like to adopt. And Andrew's kind of a quieter person if you don't know him on a personal level, and he completely opened up his heart and he shared exactly what I needed to hear at that time on that day. And it was of God, right? It was absolutely of God, and him starting to guide me down the path to Willow. Another thing was, we were in Galveston, and we had like almost this resort to ourselves. And there was this family there, and they had this young man, their son, who had Down syndrome, and he was playing, and I just got to spend a lot of one-on-one time with that young man, and talk to the parents about what it's like to raise a young adult with Down syndrome. And it was really neat, because they talked about more of the blessings than the fears. Hey, can you come over here? So that was really neat, getting to spend time with that family and to hear firsthand from parents of a young adult with Down syndrome. It gave me a lot of confidence and eased a lot of my fears. My wife was, you know, she was doing a lot of research, and she was coming to me with a lot of information. And at one point I remember telling her, I said, you know, I want to be able to do some of this research on my own. I want to find some of these discoveries. I want to grow. I want to get more comfortable through my own research and learning as well. And sure enough, just like Andrew in the car wash, just like the family in Galveston, you know, God put another yes in my path. And yeah, that's pretty. And that was a blog post from a dad and a husband that was on this very site. And I got to read it, and what it just gave me just another confirmation that there's nothing to fear in this process. And you know, we've all heard it. It's one of our favorite proverbs, and it's Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And I would say that there was so many times, but because as we know, the enemy will try to stop, tear down, and destroy anything that is of God. And when you're living in God's will, the enemy does whatever he can to stop that will from coming to fruition. And man, the fear was real. I can promise you, I can tell you, for my wife, it was like, I mean, obviously she had some fears, but for me, it was fear and anxiety like this. It was real fear, real anxiety of the unknown. And what that proverb says to me is that a kind word cheers it up. And I would tell you that every time my fear and anxiety was at the highest, and I was doing everything I could to say no to God's plan, and ultimately, turn around and tell my wife, like, this can't happen. This is crazy. God would put a confirmation in my path. Andrew at the car wash, the family in Galveston, the blog post from the dad. And for me, it was God chiseling away at the walls or around my heart that I had put up. And then my wife, she found a picture of this little girl being advocated for on Facebook. And I was just about to leave for a 10-day mission trip in Zambia, Africa. And so I just told her, I said, hey, let's take the next 10 days, let's pray about it. Let's figure out what this looks like, and when I get back, we'll figure it out, right? Well, in the back of my mind, I was going, holy smokes, like, this might get real. How can I delay it? No. And so I was in Africa, and it just turned out that we served our medical clinic out of a school for orphans. And I was around all these kids and watching them worship God, watching them have fun, watching them, and what I realized, I actually was sitting under a tree doing a devotional one day while we were there, and I just realized, man, these beautiful kids, they don't need all of these things that I thought we had to save for, and all these things that I thought we had to get perfect around the house. What they need is love. They just need love. And it's just like us. We, with God's grace and God's love, we can get through anything. With the love of a family, this little girl's going to conquer the world. Absolutely conquer the world. Another Proverbs that was something that I held on to, and then I'll kind of wrap this up and finish the story, if you will. It's Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit, and He will make your paths straight. Let me tell you something. That's a huge Proverbs to hang on to throughout your whether you're in the process of just discovering whether adoption is for you or not in your family, whether Down syndrome is where God is calling y'all. What I can tell you is trust in God. Know that if it is of God, it will be good. And I can promise you this, that if it's of God, it will be better than good. Because what I can tell you is my journey, Willow. Hey, look. Can you look at Bubba? Hey. Yay. My journey started with a lot of fear. My journey started with the enemy trying to stop me from having this blessing. And because of my wife's persistence, and because of the Lord continuing to put people in my path to show me that this is of Him, I now get to hold, I get to love on, I get to learn from one of the biggest blessings of my life. And Willow she has reshaped my heart. She has shown me what real grace, what real joy, what love looks like. And I can't imagine if I would have submitted to the enemy instead of fought and stayed in the fight till my heart was ready to fully say yes. And it's the best yes of my life. So what I want to say is I want to welcome any conversations that any of you dads or husbands, moms, if y'all are watching this, wives, if y'all are watching this, and you say, man, my husband is not there yet, and I'd love for him to talk to Tyler. We're gonna share my personal information on here. I would love for y'all to reach out to me personally. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me. But I just love to talk to you. I'd love to just continue sharing what God did in my heart in order to bring this little blessing into my life. And I can tell you this, don't be afraid. Don't be scared of it. Shoot, this big old bald Texas boy had to go to China and survive off their food. But let me tell you something, even that was a blessing. I got to see a culture that I'd never seen before. And now every single day Willow reminds us of God's true grace and love. Yeah, that's Yellow. Yeah. And she's just awesome. Willow, can you say bye?
Bye.
Say I love
you. Yay, good job.
Hey, thank y'all for taking the time to watch. Thank you for letting me share my heart with y'all. I hope that God uses this in a small way to bless you on your journey towards adoption. What I also want to share with you is that we recently started a family vlog. It's on YouTube. We'll share the link below. And that way you can just see what it's like in our daily life. This is a lot of what it's like. But you can see what it's like in our daily lives with 4 kiddos. One of them blessed with Down syndrome. And then this is what I'll end with. The Down syndrome and adoption community is absolutely amazing. You will not ever find a more loving, helpful, grace, godly-filled community than the Down syndrome and or adoption community. So, come on in, y'all.